You had mentioned that CMOs should start experimenting, VPs should start experimenting again with new forms of advertising, new forms of media, new forms of marketing. There's so much to choose from.
Yes, there is.
How should they decide where the likely low-hanging fruit is for them, where they're likely to have the successes from all the choices that they have to choose from?
Yeah, I actually don't look at it in terms of successes. I look at it in terms of learnings. Because I think also we don't necessarily know how to interpret success. If you look at something like Twitter, hard to ignore Twitter. Well, how do you even begin to think about, well, what is success on Twitter? So I tend to think of it more in terms of learnings. So if I test, a new opportunity, a new platform, what am I trying to learn? What are those learnings? Where can I apply them? So I don't necessarily look at things as successes or failures, but as a set of learnings. And I think that usually people need some good advice from their internal people, their agencies, outside people that they're working with. You can't put your arms around everything. I think there are a few opportunities for marketers to look at. You can't divide up your experimental budget. Try a few things. What are the learnings? So it's not, I don't think it's sort of the be-all and end-all where we're going to try all these things and we're going to say, yes, we're going to up that budget, by 50% next time. I think it's a set of learnings, and it can teach you many, many things.
So, how quickly should they decide that a particular experiment was a failure? Obviously, a lot of business pundits are now saying, fail fast. So if you do take a particular direction and it's not working out for you, you should know this was a failure, learn from it, and move in another direction. So any advice with regards to sort of how much time to invest in some of these directions in order to get the learnings out? Because there's limited human capital, there's limited dollar capital.
More than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, for example, supposing that, you wanted to understand more about mobile. And that's where you chose to put some of your test dollars. So, one of the things you might learn is, wow, I can't use the kind of creative that I've used elsewhere at all. That's a failure, the approach that I made. I think it's not that mobile was a failure. It's where you thought your messaging needed to be. That didn't work out. So you quickly move on to experimenting with another way to message, but on that same platform. So I think you have to be very thoughtful about what is it that you're trying to learn and bucket those learnings and be careful about what you call a success and be careful what you call a failure. It's really a set of learnings, and believe me, I believe in moving fast. But I think you also have to really understand what are you moving toward and what are you moving away from, and don't be so quick to call it a success or failure. These are all degrees. But move quickly, yeah, because speed kills if you don't have it.
Right. Well, one thing we found really useful, for search marketing, particularly in auction-based media, is look at the value of the opportunity if you manage to crack it. Right. So if there's for example, a power keyword that it's highly competitive, but if you could figure out how to crack it, either by segmenting it differently or changing your creative, changing your landing pages, etc., the value of that success is very high. So you'd spend a little more time trying to crack that versus trying to crack something that had a lower opportunity. So areas that have high opportunity, like potentially mobile, if you get it to work, or potentially Twitter, etc., maybe you'd spend a little more time on those to determine whether or not it was an overall failure, or if you just didn't have one of the ingredients right in that cake.
That's right. I mean, I think experimenting on mobile is very different from experimenting on a small platform. I mean, I think you would be very hard-pressed to find anybody who didn't think that mobile was going to be very, very big. I mean, over half the world's population who uses the internet does so, on a mobile device and will never have a PC. So I think if you don't sort of get that, you don't get that mobile is going to be very important. I think experimenting from an advertising standpoint on Twitter is probably less important right now. We don't know what Twitter is and what it's going to be. I think we need to pay a lot of attention to it.
Neither do they.
Right, yeah, exactly, neither do they. Let it be on their dime that we all learn, versus ours. But do we need to pay attention to it? Sure, it's an extraordinary phenomenon. Do we need to throw tons of money at it right now? Probably not. Probably not. But should we all get pretty smart about mobile? Uh-huh.